So I came up with this title, Riding the Waves of Change, and it, of course, made me think of surfing. And it's January, surfing, it kind of fits. If you're in Hawaii. Yeah, exactly, in the southern hemisphere. So I just want to make note of this particular graphic that's on the screen, and isn't that lovely? A man's teaching his daughter, it would appear, how to surf, and everybody's just kind of cool and cruising. And when waves of change are like that, we're good. It's okay. There's a little uncertainty in life. It's okay. That's why we go to places like Disney World or Universal Studios, so that we can experience a little uncertainty when the ride goes somewhere or does something that we weren't expecting. That's all planned. And then there's the uncertainty and the change that looks more like this. Totally different feeling, right? And it would appear to me that we've been on this kind of a wave for a couple of years now. Not really knowing where it's going to crash or how it's going to turn out, or if we're going to come out of it okay. And that's kind of what I want to talk about today. I want to look at this idea of cycles and change and how to make our lives work in the midst of it. It's the beginning of the 21st century, and I'm just looking back at the 20th century and how human beings have dealt with stuff during this time. We had the Spanish flu, which didn't make a lot of history classes, as I recall. But it was an extraordinary thing. Hundreds of thousands of people died from that, all over the world. Maybe millions of people died. When it was over, we had this thing called the Roaring Twenties, but then it went into the First World War, the war that was going to end all wars. Then a depression, and then World War II, which upped the ante on how we live on this planet. And then we had a period of peace and growth, and then back we are in the midst of the Korean and Vietnam wars. And from an American perspective, a lot of stuff happened. And then as the new century began, new millennium, I remember 2008 as a standout. It was called the Great Recession. Wow, is that something? But it lasted, year and a half? And we pulled ourselves out of it, and everything got better. And we keep going, because that's what we do. And then this pandemic, this COVID-19 thing, that has affected all of us, whether we know it or not. So the world has this thing that it does, where it surges forth with great opportunity, anticipation, glory, and then it retracts back. And that's the nature of life. We'd love for it to all just keep going, but it's not going to do that. Somehow this ebb and flow thing is going to keep happening. The waves are going to keep coming, and then they're going to recede, and then they're going to come, and then they're going to recede. And some pretty intelligent people have some thoughts about that. This one from Dan Millman I wanted to share. The world of nature moves in rhythms, patterns, and cycles. The passing of the season, the movement of the stars, the ebb and flow of the tides. The seasons do not push one another. Neither do clouds race the wind across the sky. All good things happen in their own good time, rising and falling and rising like ocean waves in the circles of time. Good words to understand. So, how are we doing at dealing with all of this? How's this working for us? Well, one of my spiritual teachers was a man named Will Rocking Bear, and he introduced me to the ways of the native people. And interestingly, those people that Europeans called savages were incredibly sophisticated about the workings of life. They weren't into building skyscrapers or anything of the sort. They were very much at peace with the land the way it was, but they had ideas about spiritual things. And one of them was called the medicine wheel. I'm sure some of you are familiar with that, but those of you that aren't, I'm going to give you a quick lesson on the medicine wheel this morning. That is the just basic idea of the wheel. A circle, 4 colors, represents the seasons, actually. It represents quite a few things. And we begin with this experience in the East. And in the East, we have new beginnings. We have a time where we can recreate ourselves at any moment, sort of like we did this morning in our meditation, to begin again, to see the sunrise as a new opportunity to do something differently. The totem of the East is the great eagle, which is said to fly the highest and see the farthest of all sentient beings. Brilliant, beautiful. And it's connected very much with the idea of spirit. Then, of course, we have the South. The South is the place of growth, the times of life we really like, of family, of love, of expansion, of prosperity. And so many of us would like to spend all our time there, and all of us get to go there, but not always, all the time. Interestingly, the totem of the South, one of them is the field mouse. Really? Now, it'd be nice if the field mice would just stay in the field, because they annoy us when they come in our home. But the truth is that the idea of the field mouse is that it gives its life so that other life can continue. Predators all go after field mice. So it's a lovely idea of giving yourself away, like parents do with their children, giving themselves completely to that, which we do. Then we move to the West, which is the place where we learn to be powerful. We learn to be resilient and persevere over the challenges of life. That's when the retractions are happening. And we still have to be strong enough and clear enough to get through it. And the totem of the West is the great bear. The great bear, the one that goes into its hibernation time and comes out renewed at the end of that time, but has to persist through times of hunger and just dealing with life and in what life brings. Important time. It's the place of strength. Then we have the North, and the North is the place of wisdom. And in the tradition of the Native Americans, the totem of the North is the white buffalo. There are not a lot of white buffalo. But that's because it is said that the white buffalo, as a woman, brought the idea of prayer to the Native people. There's a whole story about that, which I'll not give you right now. But the idea is that what comes from the North is wisdom. And you would think that would do it. There are 4 directions, right? No, actually, there's more directions. So the one that comes after that is what is above us and the blessings that come from above, which could include rain and the wind and the air that we breathe, on out into the grandmother moon, as they say, and grandfather sun, and the star nation, which shines and cheers us on in our lives. And then there's the below, the earth beneath our feet, and all that comes from it. We don't think about it much. But this earth, this planet sustains us so that we can be here and do what we've come to do. The minerals that come up out of the earth in the water are important for our bodies. And then there's all the beings that are sustained on this planet. How do we say it? The swimmers and the skimmers, the winged ones, the 2-leggeds, the 4-leggeds, all of those who share this planet, including all of the trees and the plants which create the oxygen that we breathe. It's quite a system. So we are grateful for that. There's no more than that, right? No, there's one more. It's that is within us. And that's where the native idea comes of Great Spirit, of that which sustains all life, but it does it from within. And so what we've got here is a three-dimensional model of how life is working in cycles, because we do not spend all our time in any one of these directions. Native people will say, I'm standing in the west, meaning I'm struggling with something. Or they'll say, I'm standing in the south, which means that life is just glorious and wonderful. But there's not a wrong direction. They all exist simultaneously, and we choose where our attention is. And we do that so that we can know where we are, so that we can live from that understanding and let everything be okay. The point here is we're going to let everything be okay. So that's the model that I wanted to share with you about that, and I believe I have another quote that I want to share from another good teacher, Eckhart Tolle. This comes from his Power of Now. There are cycles of success when things come to you and you thrive, and cycles of failure when things wither and disintegrate, and you have to let them go in order to make room for new things to arise or for transformation to happen. If you cling and resist at that point, it means that you are refusing to go with the flow of life, and you will suffer. You will suffer. It is not true that the up cycle is good and the down cycle is bad, except in the mind's judgment. Growth is considered positive, but nothing can grow forever. Dissolution is needed for growth to happen. We cannot exist without the other. Which gives us the opportunity to realize that what's going on in our lives are cycles, circles. Things change all the time. Some of them are real standouts, which returns me to the idea of this that we have been experiencing for nearly 2 years, this thing called a COVID-19 pandemic, and how we've watched it change in the midst of all that we have done. Now, I'll admit very quickly that I am obsessive, but I think my obsession on this experience has really been, for me, about finding the value in it. Because it's real easy to find the things that don't work. It's real easy to know that some of the people that I love dearly won't come in this room because someone in a government agency says that it's not safe. I understand, but it hurts my heart when that happens. So I'm looking at this going, what do we do with this thing? How do we manage it? We've been at it for so long and we've done our best, I'm sure. But where are we going? So one thing that I'm very clear about in this teaching, our job is not to tell you what to think. Our job is to teach you how to think so that you are open to possibilities. So what I'm going to share with you now are some things that are my perceptions and based in facts, but facts change. And I want you to know I'm not asking any of you to see this the way I see it. What I'm attempting to do here is to demonstrate that the cycle that we're in right now is a natural cycle. It was time for this to happen, and it did, and it's our job to transcend it. So what do I want to share? I want to share that this pandemic has probably been the great challenge of our lifetime. So many businesses lost, lives lost. We've passed the 880,000 death mark in the United States. Think about that for a second. 880,000 Americans have died already from this pandemic. That gives us plenty of reason to be afraid, because any of us could have that happen. Now, it's true that I actually don't know any of those people. I do know some of them because of their celebrity, but I don't personally know anyone who has died from this. That doesn't mean these people didn't die, they did. And that's kind of a morbid thought, that all those people have died. Over 5.5 million people have contracted this disease throughout the world. 5.5 million people. That's incredible. And the death toll in there is in the millions. Millions of people on the planet have died from this thing. And yet here we are still in it. Yet the thing is, it keeps changing. And we keep getting different information about it. When it started, we, of course, had nothing to protect us from it. Now we have these things called vaccines, but that doesn't work for everybody. And I understand that. And we've moved from the original strains of this thing that apparently started in China. It spread around the world. We had no vaccines. We finally, and in a very short period of time, historically, got through this, and then were able to offer something to people. Apparently, what we've learned now is that it won't keep you from getting it. It won't keep you from transmitting it, but it probably will keep it from killing you. In most cases, that's been the case. Yet, 880,000 people in this country alone is just mind-blowing. The greatest pandemic in the history of this country. So what do we do with that? Well, we watch it morph into this thing called the Delta variant, which apparently was even more deadly than the original, more dangerous than the original. And from there, as that passed around the world, we moved into this thing called the Omicron variant. Omicron, the symbol for Omicron is 0. So maybe we've gotten to the base point of this. And that's what I'm seeing. And that's what I really wanted to share with you, is even in the midst of all the good reasons to be afraid, I think there's great promise in what's happening right now. This Omicron variant is incredibly contagious. Incredibly, like so much more than any other disease we've ever had. It's just spreading. 300,000 people are being what's the word when you've got it? Diagnosed is the word. Thank you. With this every day right now. Think 300,000 people a day. That's incredible. But on the other hand, right now, and I checked it, and I was online this morning to make sure I wasn't missing anything. A man in Houston, Texas, died with the Omicron variant. One guy. And they don't even know if that's what killed him, because he had other health issues. Whoa, that's different. Did you know that the common cold comes from 4 distinct coronaviruses? When we were young, they said they didn't know what it was, but they know now that there are coronaviruses that give you a cold. And I tell you what, this Omicron variant of the COVID-19 is sure starting to look like a cold. One of the unique things about it is that it will not invade the cells in your lungs like the Delta variant will. The thing that has killed people with the Delta variant is that they suffocate because they can't take in oxygen. That's the big problem. This one doesn't seem to do that. It gives you what looks more like a head cold. But it is not attacking. They've already done research on this. And they continue to do research. And they're not saying this is absolute, but it's sure looking that way because people are not dying. This is turning into a very contagious cold. That's my perception of this. And if that's true and that's what comes out of this, we don't need to be afraid of it like we have been of the other. It's not going to keep killing us. It's going to infect us. Chances are we're all going to get it. We're going to get a cold. And if that's the case, we can see the end of this thing. So I share this with you. And if you don't want to agree, you want to see it a different way, that's absolutely your right. But I've really been compelled to want to say this out loud, that there's light at the end of this tunnel. We're going to create a new life. And we don't have to freak out anymore. It's going to be okay. Now, Delta's still around. It's not gone, but it's waning. And if Omicron's going to do 300,000 new cases a day, it's not going to last long either. Some people I actually heard say that this may be over in the next couple of months. Let that be. But however it is, there's an end to this. And we really need to start preparing for that and knowing the truth of this and living from a greater sense of it and letting go of the fear, not letting go of caution, not being foolish, but not giving our lives to this, letting ourselves live the life we've come to live. This was the retraction time, and we're going to step back into the growth time, and it's going to be good for all of us. So I invite you to join me in that knowing. Again, if you don't want to, you don't have to. But that's what I see. So, speaking more generally about this idea of how we're going to do this thing called change and how we're going to accept it in our lives, I have 7 quick ideas I want to share. I'll go through them really quick. Just let them wash over you. Maybe one will click for you, and it's something that you can actually work on. So here we go. How we can use change to our benefit. Don't be afraid of adversity. Life is filled with adversity. There's always something that we can focus on that can be a problem or a challenge. Okay, don't be afraid of it. We can get through it. We can know the truth. I honestly believe that some people have died of the COVID virus out of fear, that they died of fear, that they got the virus and they were so freaked out that they died. Let's not be afraid. Let's keep moving forward and know we're okay. See changes as yet to be revealed blessings. There are blessings in this thing we've been going through. We're learning to be stronger, clearer, more perceptive of our lives because we've gone through this. It is honing us for the work that we're here to do. Believe in your ability to overcome. There's nothing you as a spiritual being cannot overcome. And that's true for me as well. It's true for everyone. But you got to see life that way or it won't work. Or you will be overwhelmed by things in life. The idea is if you want to deal with change, don't be overwhelmed. Believe in who you are. Expand your ability to adapt. In business, companies that adapt to the marketplace are successful. Companies that don't adapt close their doors. It's true for, as much as it's true for organizations, it's true for individuals. When we are able to adapt to situations, we thrive. And when we don't, when we moan about how bad life is and how hard it is and how I don't know what to do, when we get into that kind of a mindset, we lose. Let's don't lose. Let's win. Let's adapt. Let's keep looking for new opportunities. Even in the midst of this, there are great opportunities. I tell you what, in our spiritual movement, and I'm sure in many others, the idea of providing what we're teaching to people online has grown exponentially during this thing. Let's don't lose that. Let's touch lives outside. We have the blessing of having had a very robust online presence beforehand. So we were in a good space for that. But everybody else has learned or they've closed. And we don't have to do that. We're okay. We're making it. And more, it's obviously the holidays, and people are finding their way back, and we will have more and more people, and it won't be long before we have to put more chairs back into this sanctuary. See change as progress. This thing, even this virus, is helping us find who we are and live our lives well. But we have to do it consciously. It won't happen on its own. We have to be strong and clear and know who we are. And finally, be open to new life experiences. Welcome them. It was Rumi that said, open your house to all kinds of feelings. Even if they wipe your house clear, that's an opportunity to recreate your space. There's always a value to everything that we go through. So let's not fall into that state of despair, not know that there's an end. It was Rocking Bear that used to tell me that the difference between pain and suffering is that pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional because in suffering, we don't know when the pain's going to end. But the pain will end, and life will get wonderful And it is wonderful, even right now in the midst of all that we've been through. A final thought from Khalil Gibran. In every winter's heart lies a quivering spring. And behind the veil of each night waits a smiling dawn. That is the promise. Great things are coming. Life is good. We are strong, and we're up to the task. I know that for me. I know it for you, and I love you very much.